In the district of NagarKurnool, Telangana, India, there lived a couple, Swati and Sudhakar Reddy, along with their 2 children. On November 26, 2017, Sudhakar suddenly fell ill. That day, only Swati and Sudhakar were at home as their children were staying with their grandparents. In a state of panic, Swati informed Sudhakar's cousin, Arvind Reddy, about Sudhakar's sudden health decline. Upon hearing this, Arvind immediately rushed to Sudhakar's aid. Sudhakar was then taken to the hospital where he lost consciousness and only regained it after receiving treatment. Sudhakar was clueless about what had happened, how he lost consciousness, and when he was taken to the hospital. When he asked Swati about it, she told him that he had fallen from the bed in a drunken state and lost consciousness. Sudhakar's condition improved on November 26th and Swati brought him home. To take care of Sudhakar, his cousin Arvind stayed at their house that night. The next morning, on November 27th, Sudhakar returned home as his health had fully recovered. However, shortly after Arvind left, Sudhakar faced another incident. 4 masked men broke into his house, and when he tried to fight back, they beat him up severely. They then doused him with petrol and set him on fire, causing severe burns to his face and body. Swati quickly rushed him to a private hospital. Sudhakar was in extreme pain and his condition shocked everyone at the hospital. In the meantime, Swati informed Sudhakar's family about the incident. The hospital staff immediately took Sudhakar to the emergency room and began his treatment. Sudhakar's mother, his brother Sherndra, and other family members also arrived at the hospital. After a few hours, there was some improvement in his condition, but the doctor suggested that he would need plastic surgery to repair his face, which Swati agreed to. Since Sudhakar was a businessman, Swati could afford the expensive procedure. As his treatment continued and his condition improved over several days, Sudhakar tried to speak. However, the severe burns had also affected his throat, making it difficult for him to speak clearly. During this time, Sudhakar's brother Sherndra filed a police complaint about the attack on Sudhakar on November 28th. Sudhakar, who still had many bandages on his face, communicated through gestures to explain his side of the story. His parents and brother stayed at the hospital with Swati to take care of him. As days passed and Sudhakar's condition improved, the doctor suggested he switch to a liquid diet. Sudhakar loved mutton soup, so his mother brought some to the hospital for him. However, it was surprising that Sudhakar refused to drink the mutton soup at first. His family thought he might not be in the mood for it, but when Sudhakar continued to refuse the soup, they found it odd because people usually crave their favorite foods and drinks during recovery. Everyone knew Sudhakar was a big fan of mutton soup, so his refusal raised suspicion in his brother Sherndra's mind, although he didn't share it with anyone. Sudhakar's face was more than 30% burned, but his health had improved significantly. However, Sudhakar's parents and brother noticed that along with Sudhakar's facial changes, his physical appearance had also changed considerably. His posture, speech, and small habits had all changed significantly. Observing all these changes, Sudhakar's parents and brother began to suspect that the person admitted to the hospital wasn't Sudhakar, but someone else. To confirm their suspicions, Sudhakar's parents started questioning their son. After Sudhakar started recovering, his family noticed something odd. He had begun to communicate through gestures and writing instead of speaking. This led Sudhakar's family to file another police complaint, suspecting that someone was impersonating Sudhakar. They even suspected their own daughter-in-law, Swati. The police visited the hospital and tried to question Sudhakar, but he remained silent. As a result, they turned their attention to Swati. During the interrogation, the police noticed that Swati seemed nervous and kept changing her statements. Initially, she blamed a physiotherapist named Rajesh for assaulting her husband. She claimed that Rajesh had taken inappropriate pictures of her during her physiotherapy sessions and was blackmailing her. Despite her statements, Swati's inconsistent accounts made the police suspicious. The police searched for Rajesh for several days but couldn't find him. The case was so bizarre that the Telangana police assigned a special investigator to it. They decided to use fingerprints to confirm if the man in the hospital was indeed Sudhakar. They secretly took the man's fingerprints and compared them with Sudhakar's records. A few days later, the results showed that the fingerprints didn't match, indicating that the man in the hospital was not Sudhakar. When Sudhakar and Swati's families found out, they were shocked. Swati's father had even considered the man as his son-in-law and had spent a lot of money on his treatment. The police now had several questions. Who was the man in the hospital? Where was the real Sudhakar? And why was Swati calling this man her husband? To find the answers, the police called Swati to the police station for detailed questioning about the entire incident. During the initial hours of interrogation, Swati didn't reveal anything. But when the police pressed her, she told a story that even they found hard to believe. Swati had married Sudhakar in an arranged marriage in 2014. Sudhakar was a businessman, and Swati was a nurse. They had 2 children together. A few years into their marriage, Swati started experiencing back pain, which led her to see a doctor with Sudhakar. The doctor suggested she see a physiotherapist named Rajesh. Initially, Sudhakar would accompany her, but due to his busy schedule, she started going alone. So, after a while, Swati and Rajesh started seeing each other romantically, sneaking around when Swati's husband, Sudhakar, wasn't around. They'd hang out at Swati's place and chat on the phone a bunch. Swati really wanted to marry Rajesh, but she couldn't divorce Sudhakar because she wanted his stuff too. So, she figured her dream couldn't happen while Sudhakar was alive. Between August and September 2017, Swati and Rajesh started planning to get rid of Sudhakar. Swati got this idea from a movie called Yavadu. She shared it with Rajesh, and they watched the movie a bunch more times, thinking if Sudhakar was out of the picture and Rajesh changed his looks, they could be together and get Sudhakar's stuff. They started looking into how to make their plan work. They even talked to a plastic surgeon about changing Rajesh's face, but they found out it would only work if Rajesh's face got partially burnt, like 30%. Then, about a week before they were going to do it, Sudhakar's cousin saw Swati with Rajesh in a car. He told Sudhakar, and they argued about it. Swati had enough of those fights, so she picked the 26th of November to do the deed. But first, she had to train Rajesh to be more like Sudhakar, how to walk, talk, dress, and even act like him. Then, she sent her kids to her parents' place. On the night of the 26th, before Sudhakar got home, Rajesh hid at Swati's place. When Sudhakar got home, Rajesh jumped him from behind, knocking him out, but he didn't die. Swati called Sudhakar's cousin to say he fell and fainted. They took him to the hospital, and when he got better, they brought him home. The next day, after Sudhakar's cousin left, Swati put Sudhakar to sleep with anesthesia and then suffocated him with a pillow while Rajesh beat him to death with a rod. They made sure to ruin Sudhakar's face so no one could recognize him. Then they wrapped him up, put him in a car, and took him to a nearby forest where they burned his body. After all evidence was destroyed, it was time to execute the second, more horrifying part of the conspiracy. According to the plan, Swati had to replace Sudhakar with Rajesh in her life. This could only be possible if Rajesh's face was made to look like Sudhakar's. After Rajesh agreed, Swati decided to disfigure his face. She slowly poured acid onto Rajesh's face, destroying it. The face she once loved was now being ruined by her own hands. The acid was slowly burning Rajesh's face. After that, Swati took Rajesh to the hospital and then called Sudhakar and her family members to tell them a fabricated story about Sudhakar's condition. When doctors told Swati that Sudhakar would need plastic surgery to improve his condition, Swati immediately agreed. Now you know the rest of the story of how Sudhakar became suspicious when he didn't drink the mutton soup, and then how Swati and Rajesh were caught. If Rajesh had drunk the mutton soup, perhaps they wouldn't have been caught by now. Actually, Rajesh refused to drink the soup because he was a vegetarian. In the end, the police arrested Swati on December 10, 2017 and found Sudhakar's body. Because Rajesh was undergoing treatment at that time, the police arrested him later. So with that, the murder case comes to an end right here. If you appreciate our efforts, like and share this video. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Thank you.